Hi Emily, how are you? Really great to see you. I'm really grateful that you're here to have this conversation with me. How are you? How's the last week or so been for you?
I'm good. This last week's been actually really quite nice. Um, so yeah, it's kind of been a nice mixture of some downtime and some work as well. So yeah, it's been good.
So are you based in Cornwall, am I right?
Yeah, I'm based just outside of Truro, which is the main city in Cornwall. Yeah.
So what's the COVID situation down there? I mean, I know it's a bit mad on the other side of England, but it's not so bad where you are, or?
I think it's okay. It's difficult to know because because of being in lockdown, and also we've been myself and my partner have predominantly been shielding since last March. So for us, it's quite a weird experience in that it's been quite a similar experience all throughout the whole of almost the last year now. But obviously, we're still in touch with friends, family, work colleagues, and the news and all of that. And I think it's okay. I heard kind of flurries of Falmouth isn't too far from us. I think there was some cases that a few weeks ago were going up in Falmouth and in Newquay as well, but hopefully they're a bit more under control now.
I know it's a bit of a stupid question, but how did it been for you children than a year ago almost?
Oh, completely bizarre. I think, in general, we recognise that we're in Cornwall. We are, as kind of in terms of being based somewhere really rural, and geographically really quite far away from somewhere like London, or kind of more kind of hotspots in the cities. So there's all that side of things. We know that we're okay, we're a bit safer, but it's been completely bizarre. I'm a dancer, and I'm so used to being out and working with other people in different spaces and working physically with
Yeah.
people, that it's been quite a kind of roller coaster, and quite an experience kind of managing the flow of that and getting used to it. But we're good.
Good.
Yeah.
I think we have to adapt. You find way to adapt because, like yourself and like myself, I'm a performer. I'm so used to being in public spaces, what I love doing. And as a deaf person, I just physically like to see people because, but we have to. I've just learned how to adapt, and like this is my room where I've been working and breathing pretty much since last year. It was despairing because we used to have lots of visitors coming to the house. My partner's from Australia, so her parents still lived in Australia, so they spent quite a long time in the spare room. So it was always a spare room, but I realised this is now a room where nobody's going to come. So it became then the office. So I started to work in the office, but I found it really uninspiring that the word office. So now it becomes the studio. So I'm trying to find like creative ways of making work in the house. Because I can't make work in a physical space. So I'm trying to find ways, how do I create work in the house? So I'm looking ways of being inspired by artwork. I've got a dancer on one wall. I've got some famous artwork that just been inspired. Is that something that you're the same in terms of trying to inspire you to find space? I don't know, to move, I guess, to be yourself. Like if you, I mean, there must be barriers, surely, or have you found that okay?
It's been one of the most difficult things to manage for me, and to kind of psychologically kind of carve out spaces within spaces in the house that are kind of my dance spaces or my work spaces, whether that's this kind of space where it's more conversational meetings. I do have a little kind of office space upstairs for that kind of work, but you know, my work is also physical and it's creative, and I've been teaching and choreographing, and that the space where that kind of creativity is and movement has been happening has been in this room, which is our lounge. Normally I move the kind of sofa back and the armchair behind me is kind of back. I kind of move all of that over to the other side of the room, and psychologically kind of getting used to the fact that that kind of juxtaposition between this is normally a space in which we switch off, it's a kind of chill out space, you know, TV. Psychologically, for this space to also be my physical workspace, a creative space, that's been quite difficult to kind of get my head around, and kind of it's almost like giving into that and finding ways to celebrate that in different ways. Celebrating dancing on carpet has it's been a challenge, but I think I'm there now. And,
so when I read your understory, which was brilliant, it was really brilliant. I understand it was to inspire younger dancers. How was that for you in terms of coming about with that project? I found it really interesting that it wasn't just a bio. It was talking about more deeper and personal things. Was that a very ambitious project for you?
So the understory project itself, the website, so it's a website that houses I think it's over 100 different artists' stories of their kind of journey and pathway through their careers. Understory itself as a whole project is that's not my project. That's a project that has been created and built by two choreographers who are based in the UK. One of them is an ex-student of mine, and another one is a kind of friend and colleague. And their kind of vision in terms of building that website as a space to inspire predominantly recent graduates, young dancers that were just starting to enter into the professional field as COVID hit last year. So to create that collection of stories, to inspire, to open up kind of a space to see, read, because I wrote my chat, they're called chats. I wrote my chats and mine's written, but there's a combination of kind of video chats, illustrations, GIFs. It's really kind of creative website, and different artists have kind of answered that kind of question, and in terms of sharing their pathway through their career in lots of different ways. So that was created by two other artists, but to be a part of it, to see my chat on that website alongside all of those other artists from not just across the UK but across the world, is, for me as an artist, is also really inspiring. And to read other people's journeys through their careers is really interesting, inspiring, and really important. It's an amazing project.
Absolutely, and I think it's really important because young people are going through a really difficult time in the moment, because they obviously don't know what's happening, and it's something that you've had to deal with as a lecturer, or I suppose to inspire young dancers, or in a way that dealing with the pandemic and the after effect of the pandemic. So is that something you found it challenging?
Yeah, I think on many different levels, working in the arts is tough anyway. We all know that. And the natural, organic ways of building your networks, finding your tribe, that happens. You go out for drinks, you go and socialize, you catch up with each other to go and see a show. All of that kind of organic networking that happens that being lost at the point of entry into the industry, that's so tough. And you know, keeping your training up, how do you do that if you don't have access to those kind of classes and space? I love moving, and depending on what kind of where your practice sits in the contemporary dance world, you know, it's really, really tough to be figuring out how to continue to dance in your kit. I've worked with dancers and they've been in their kitchens, in the lounge, and they've got their dogs and their, you know, family members walking around, and it's really tough. And I really feel for young people right now. But there are some brilliant kind of projects, and I think there are some projects that are creating space in new ways for artists of across all of our different kind of stages of our careers, to find different ways and different spaces to connect to each other like this, and hopefully by sharing this, you know, hopefully it will just keep the wheels turning, that kind of inspiration turning. Yeah.
And I think, you know, working in the art, it's very much about that kind of, I suppose, human connection, really, because we're so used to being in space. And, you know, this is where I'm you know, for me, coming from experience, and I'm sure same with you, being in a room with people, and you know, that's what something I've always been used to. That's why I'm asking that question, because a lot of those young dancers, and maybe yourself as well, because we're trying to do this on their own, you know, in their house or maybe with their flatmate or something. It must be extremely challenging. But what about you and stuff, and how are you coping in a way that doing everything on Zoom and online, and is that something you've adapted or adjusted quite quickly, or?
I think it's been completely fascinating. I'm someone that's really used to working and feel comfortable working with technology. I enjoy kind of working with different types of software and, you know, cameras, and so I've got an interest in photography. So in lots of ways, working with some of the kind of kit and software feels really quite natural, and there's a geeky part of me that actually really quite enjoys figuring that stuff out. But I think one of the most surprising things for me was my really quite, what's the word, deep revulsion at wanting to dance via a screen. It was really quite, it took me by surprise how much I definitely didn't want to do that. Last year, it was really tough to kind of face the fact that this is our reality right now, and everyone is facing that same reality, and trying to find ways to celebrate that and be kind to yourself in figuring that out.
Yeah, I think so. I think for me personally, trying to deal with everything online, and as an art consultant, I campaign for better art in the physical space, and I've been doing that for a long time, and all of a sudden it's been shifted to the online space. And while everything would thinking about how to make things more adaptable in the online space, I kind of went the other way, because I felt like it was just too much for me. And I just couldn't cope with the technology and everything moving around. And I quite liked the fact that I didn't do anything. I quite liked the fact that I slowed down. Because I was supposed to go on a massive tour, European and UK tour, and then all of a sudden everything went downhill. So I responded to that really badly. I'm wondering whether, you know, your hopes and your ambition and your dreams just kind of went down the shit in literally when Boris said, theatre is going to be shut and everything. What was that feeling for you? With that, did you have that kind of same feeling, or?
Everything that you're saying resonates so much with me. I've been working on a solo project called In My Head, which is a live solo dance theatre performance work, and I've been working on that for about 2 years, and I was 5 weeks away from going into the final rehearsal period to finish and make the show when COVID hit. So that was really tough, and for lots of reasons, like everything that you said, and you're kind of all of that momentum and drive, and the years before that built up to kind of getting the applications in and the funding and the bringing your kind of team together, and to get to that point was really hard. And I think that the show is about my experience of hearing loss, and so there's been a personal journey within that, professional journey as well, understanding my own kind of hearing, my own needs, understanding my own behavior and unpicking that. So for that to kind of come to such an abrupt end, and then to be so static in the house, to also be having to figure out how to still teach and dance and make via a screen, I was exhausted at the end of last year. And what you were saying about having some time away, that's kind of what I've been doing at the beginning of this year. I've been working a bit more gently, and because the kind of fallout, what it feels like from all of that work that goes on to make all of that happen, and it's felt a little bit like there's a bit of fallout the other end of that, to enable yourself to kind of recuperate and to refresh, to get back on the saddle again.
In My Head, and which I touch upon when I was researching about you, which is about your extraordinary experience of ordinary everyday sound and hearing loss. I'm quite fascinated about how that came about. It'd be great if you could talk about it, if you're willing to talk about it.
Yeah, sure.
And why was it important to you?
Yeah, so it's been interesting actually having some time now to kind of reflect and look back on how that project came to be, because it kind of gained such momentum, and what it's like when you're kind of making a show and you're in the thick of it, to then kind of pause and look back and go right back to the very, very start of how the project was kind of born, I suppose. And it came about from, I've been working for about 17 years as a dancer predominantly, and so I applied for some funding to do a step change project, to be able to go out and travel out of Cornwall to refresh my practice, shadow choreographers, take some new kind of workshops and intensives, just to kind of refresh kind of my thinking and kind of move into the next phase of my career. And it was during that time that I noticed that I was really struggling in certain studios, and because I was around new people, new voices, new studios, new everything. There was one particular situation that I was in a class, a dance class, where it was an improvisation class, and the instructor was moving around the room giving verbal instruction, and I was getting so upset because I couldn't fully dance. I couldn't move because I was working so hard to try and hear the verbal instruction. It really upset me, and that created a moment for me to start asking questions. I put something on Facebook to kind of say, this is an experience I've had, I'm struggling. The kind of comeback from that was really amazing. Lots of people kind of really supportive and offering different bits of advice. And yeah, just to ask that question, could potentially me kind of sharing my experience and looking into my kind of experience of hearing loss, could that be beneficial for other people? And so that's when I applied for a Developing Your Creative Practice grant from the Arts Council to look at this, tentatively look at this idea in terms of everyday sound and hearing loss and what that it means for me, and yeah, and what that means for me reflectively, in terms of, like I say, trying to understand my own behaviour, but also kind of what that means in terms of the future. And I've trialed hearing aids, that's sitting there waiting for me in the near future. So yeah, kind of going on that journey
I recommend them
through that research.
I don't recommend using hearing aid. I've been wearing hearing aid for 42 years now, and 44 years now, and people always seem to think they're fixed, but they're not. They're far from being fixed. They just amplify sound, like, you know, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So predominantly I have to rely on lip reading in order for my hearing aid to work. Do you find clarity in hearing aid? Probably not. Some people would say, yeah, they do find clarity in hearing aid. This is why I was really interested in it, because I think making my show, the loud is not always clearer,
Yeah.
made me understand a little bit about my identity, something I'd never had before, and I think making the show made me talk to lots of people, lots of deaf people who, like me, who profoundly deaf and speak. And because I always thought I was on my own, and I didn't know who to talk to, and there was that fear of not having a role model. I get a deaf role model, you know, someone I've never really looked up to when I was younger. And I just wanted, you talked about you had a good support network. How did that feel for you? I mean, did it give you more of actually, I'm not on my own here. I've got people I could talk to.
It gave me a kind of burst of confidence to look at what I was experiencing with more value for myself initially, to kind of take myself and my own experience more seriously, rather than kind of batting it away in that kind of, oh, I'll muddle through, I'll keep going, I'll muddle through. It kind of made me press pause and look at this thing in my life with more respect, actually. And I received some private messages from people that have had different experiences of hearing loss, and some of them were hearing aid users, some of them more kind of profoundly deaf. And one message in particular kind of really stood out, which was it's that isolation that they feel, and trying to communicate to their immediate family what it is like and what they might need, and their immediate family not necessarily taking them seriously, and that being a real struggle for them. And that message in particular really struck a chord with me. I have a wonderfully supportive partner who is, you know, kind of genuinely always asking me, you know, just little things like when we're watching TV, do you need the subtitles on? Can you hear that all right? Little things like that make a really big difference, and it allows you to be you in your own space. And if you don't have that, then that's so hard. And that's just one tiny example within your own home. If you take that out into the world on a day-to-day basis, and if it stops you from socializing, that's so incredibly lonely. And yeah, I feel like I'm just at the beginning of figuring myself out and my own experience, and learning so much about the deaf culture, which is something that I've known very little about, which isn't my experience at all. But to understand other people's experience and to learn more about other people's experience that might be similar to mine, and to then bring that into, not to bring it into, but to allow it to be a part of my own practice, and to affect the projects that I might work on. Yeah, I want to, the word that sprung to mind then was excited, but that's not the right word. I'm not excited by it. I actually feel really like it feels like there's a huge shift in my life, not just in my work, and that is important to me. And I hope then I can create space for that to be important for other people in different ways, I think.
So what about it's really interesting what you say about speaking to people about isolation, and definitely it's so complex. It really is so complex, you know, and having lots of conversation with, I suppose, that people like yourselves and struggling, almost like going out because they want to do theatre, but they struggle with very, very simple things. And although you were saying so beautifully about the very little things, I mean, my partner will always say little thing like, is the light bright enough, or, because I'm so used to do putting the volume up or putting the volume down, because my friend always say to me, put the volume up, and I hate it. I really hate it because I don't know what the right volume is, you know, I don't know these things, but I never challenge them. But I've started to challenge people now, to say, not challenge them in a nasty way, but to just say, this is what I don't know if I could do this, and I do this through my show as well. And I think it's really important. A lot of my friends I've known since I was a baby or kid have seen the show. They're like, "You're deaf?"
Really?
Yeah, but they don't.
Wow.
They can't accept that I'm deaf. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
They're oblivious to the hearing aid because I do everything they ask me to do. So, for example, I'm not allowed to do bungee jumping. I can't do bungee jumping because they say that affects my audio, I don't know. But I did it because my friend asked me to do it because I wanted to do it for them. So in a way, I've kind of learned now, actually, or they've learned, actually, this is who I am, and it's taken me such a long time. And I'm talking a lot about it because I'm reflecting about what you're saying, you know, about coming to terms with it, and you know, it's a journey. But I see it as a beautiful journey, and that's how I see it. And so that's why when I saw you were looking about what you're saying about in my head, and it looked for me quite an exciting project and an exciting discovery. And I do hope there's a chance that you will finish that piece of work. And do you think you have will you develop that, or is that something you'll do in the long term, or
Yeah, I think at the moment the project's on hold. It's been such a rich experience. I feel so lucky to have had that kind of, the initial research time was so rich, working with my collaborators and discovering specific bits of kit that have been really kind of important in the kind of, or will be important in the final work, and discovering kind of how the show needs to be performed as well. It feels like it needs to be in an intimate environment where the audience are really quite close to me. So developing the project at the moment is tough. I am looking at getting back in the studio again later on this year to finish it, and then potentially touring it next year. But I've always felt very strongly from the moment that COVID hit, I didn't want it to develop into a digital project. But I have been exploring other strands of the project in different ways. But the kind of performance itself needs to be a live experience. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you make it happen, and do let me know. And I can't wait to do that if you do make it happen. That's great. I'm just thinking about you at the Dante. You said you've been dancing for 17 years. But I'm thinking a little bit more about what worked in your experience. I mean, the work, you know, being an advocate for dancing, and maybe the wider society. So what are maybe the broken things, I suppose, that we need to talk about more?
In relation to COVID, or in relation to hearing, or
I suppose both, really.
Everything, or yeah,
both, really. I mean, you know, it's like I challenge people about how we think about the aesthetic of asset within a performance, you know, and how we could sort of layer asset within the work rather than being add-on. Or I think about how we maybe in work that there need to be more deaf awareness training or mental health training, a lot of things, you know. I'm just thinking of the perspective that you've been doing it for such a long time. That little thing maybe that need to be repaired, that like, whether it's a reflection from COVID or, I mean, what I'm saying is, what is the new normal? Is there a new normal? Yeah. For example, you know, do we not want to go back to the old normal? So can we reset that button, and then what is it that the new normal should be?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's so much, and I think I think one of the main things in relation to me being a dancer, I've worked as a professional dancer for really long time, and I've worked on quite a lot of different projects that involve different community groups, which is amazing, and it's always been such a brilliant experience. Access on a lot of shows that I've worked on is, my hope for the future is that access is brought into the conversation right from the beginning, the inception stage of a project. So there's conversations that happen as part of the artistic planning and as part of the artistic, like the mooching and the research and the bouncing of ideas, all of that like really rich creative time that you have on a project, to bring access into that conversation. I really, really hope that happens more, and that's something that that's a way that I want to work in the, you know, kind of in the future, and to have access as like a creative challenge rather than it being something that happens right at the very, very, very end stage that is bought in. Maybe on one or two shows, is actually really ingrained in the art of the work. That's one hope that I have. I think working on Zoom so much, Zoom is the platform, it's the go-to platform now, but there are challenges working within Zoom to when you're on Zoom so much and you become fatigued from listening so much. There's not necessarily the option to have captions automatically on Zoom, whereas on other platforms there are. I don't know, just there's something around not having to ask all the time for those things, and for those things to be part and parcel of how we communicate. Yeah.
And I agree with a lot of those things, and I think it's really important not to go back, and I see it an opportunity.
Yeah.
Really, to make a difference, to make a huge difference, and for me or for you as well, working with young people and young people to have a voice, and because they really are the future. That's why we do a job like this, and really change that and challenge them. I think. No, that's brilliant. I think I've been thinking a lot about, I know I keep bringing it up a lot about COVID and how it impacted us in the whole year. I kind of, what's been your, I guess, I don't know, something you maybe learned during the whole year, I don't know, or something you've done, a new experience, yeah, I mean, for me, it's about going out of the house and discovering things. And I found out a lot of new interesting parks and woodland that I've never noted before, and finding little things in the area as well. So yeah, just things that. Yeah, I don't know, something that we've done in the last. The last year.
The real positives of this whole situation, I've discovered a real love for sea swimming. I'm so lucky to live near the sea. The ocean's not that far from me. There's a really lovely, it's a tiny little beach that I can go to and sea swim, and that's cold water swimming, and it's kind of gained in popularity so much during COVID. I stopped.
You have to wear a full wetsuit, or I can't imagine you just jump into the sea and swim it.
Well, this is the thing. There's a whole kind of group of people that regularly swim almost every single day in the sea, just in a swimsuit, so they don't.
No way.
Yeah. So there's some amazing.
To do that, is that your ambition to try and do, or are you doing that now?
No, that's my ambition, is to be able to swim all year round just in a swimsuit. I'm not there yet. Yeah, I'm back in a wetsuit at the moment, but it's amazing. It really does kind of. The physical and mental effect that it has on you is incredible. I'm one of those people that are waving the flag for cold water swimming. Yeah, it's amazing.
I bet it's really therapeutic for them, because they're so used to, I don't know, acclimatized to the cold water. Maybe if I ever come down to Falmouth, I'll be there with my swimming. I could go straight in. I'll probably last a second.
Absolutely.
Wow. So that's something you've only just started in the COVID year, or?
Yeah, I've always loved swimming. I've always loved swimming in the sea, but I've only ever really been a kind of summer swimmer when the weather and the temperatures kind of been warmer. I've never really kind of took it that little bit more seriously to kind of swim more regularly and for longer stretches throughout the year, but it's a game changer. It really is amazing, and there's been some really amazing swims that I've had really recently. The water's been really calm, and it's so quiet and peaceful, and then you kind of pierce that peacefulness with slightly kind of squeals as you're getting into the water. But it's it's a really wonderful thing to.
We're really lucky here. We've got mountains, and you know, being at our doorstep. So I spent quite a long time, and I'm very fortunate. My partner, my two children, my oldest, love walking. So we spent quite a long time walking, and sometimes you find solace by being in the mountain and getting away from all. It feels quite normal. I guess it probably feels the same for you, where you go somewhere and it just feels normal again, and sometimes we need them kind of normality. Great. I think I just want to, what have you met? Is there anything you met? Is there anything you really met? I'm sure there's lots of things you've met, especially with children for so long.
Hugs, like I miss.
Hugging, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, as a dancer, I'm so used to working physically and tactilely with other bodies, and to not have that has been completely bizarre. So I'm looking forward, when we're through the other side of this, to be able to go dancing for work, but also socially, to just kind of dance again and not be worried about how far away you are from people all the time, to kind of have that kind of slight wildness back again in terms of movement, and to not feel that kind of we're so prohibited at the moment. Every time we're kind of around other people, I'm really looking forward to not having to think about that in other people's company.
Tough, you know, and you know, I haven't hugged my mum for a year. But it's really hard. It's more hard for her, you know, and so hugging the big game changer, and I really hope that's going to happen in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. Emily, been absolutely brilliant. I've absolutely loved having this conversation with you. I feel like we could talk about a lot of things, but we will, because I'm coming to Falmouth I think in a couple of weeks' time. So hopefully we'll get the chance to see you. We may not be able to hug, but at least I could see you in social distancing.
That would be great.
Thank you again, being absolutely brilliant. I think we are going to probably end the conversation by doing the clap. Brilliant.